today. Today, we are going to talk about calls to action. And the reason that we are doing this today and then tomorrow and Friday, we're going to really help you with individual pieces of content is because we feel like calls to action are so misunderstood.
Yes.
And they're so misunderstood and they get a bad rap and they could feel salesy, mostly because you're doing them wrong. And they're really, really important. So, especially right now, when you really want to get engagement, when you really want to be conversing with your audience, whether that's via email, whether that's on your Facebook business page, in your Instagram DMs, or in your Facebook group, the algorithms are favoring engagement. So
Yes.
it's not enough that you just post, right? Because we know that posting 3 times a week and doing Facebook Lives and sending 3 emails could amount to nothing. Or it could amount to a very profitable business. And that all depends on several things: the positioning of the content, the intent of the content, but also the engagement level of the content. And so I'm going to explain what calls to action are and the different types. And then Laura will go into some examples and basically like how to use them. So when we say calls to action, or like a direct CTA. A CTA is a call to action. What we're saying is you are giving an instruction for them to do something. We can't make the assumption that someone reading our content, whether that's listening to a Facebook Live or watching an Instagram Live, reading an email, participating in a webinar, participating in a Facebook group, engage like on your social media channels, they need to be told what to do every single step of the way. They need to be told, hit reply, hit subscribe, they leave a review, sign up for the webinar, sign up for this piece of free content, show up for this live. You know, people need to be told what to do. Otherwise, they're not going to do it. And so what we find is that most practitioners and coaches put out content with no calls to action. Almost every single piece of content, I shouldn't say almost, every single piece of content that you put out needs to have a directive. It needs to have a call to action. It needs to have an instruction. It doesn't always need to lead directly to a sales opportunity, right? Your calls to action don't need to necessarily be book a call here or buy this thing. But because we're online, you need to be directive and instructive in your language in order to get the engagement. And here's an example. Let's say you put up a post about how stressed out you are right now. Let's just say, and it's like a good post and you hope that people relate to it, but there's no directive at the end. There's nothing at the end that says, can you relate? Or, you know, do you have you experienced something different? There's no question. There's no, reply below with something similar you've experienced. If there's no instruction on how to respond, they're just going to hit the like button. And that's engagement, right? If you put up, another example would be if you put up a post, like a really good teaching post, right? Where you're like, okay, these are the 3 things that I want you to do. Hello. Good morning, everybody. These are the 3 things that I want you to do today to, reduce your gut flare-ups, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3. But if you don't say something to the effect like, let me know in the comments when you're going to start on step 1, or if you have any questions, or where are you at right now, let me know. If you don't ask an open-ended question, or if you don't tell them what to do, they're just going to hit like. We review so much content for our clients, and there's been so many times, right? There's been so many times where they're like, this is a really good post and I'm trying so hard. I'm like, but there's nothing here for them to engage with.
You didn't ask them anything.
Yeah, you didn't ask them anything. You didn't give them a directive. So yeah, it might be a really great post, but thank you for the helpful tips, right? There's nothing there for them to engage with. And so, especially right now, when we're wanting to have as many conversations with potential clients as possible, because less people are going to take action, we want to make sure that the content that we're putting out opens the door for engagement, right? The more conversations that you have, whether that's via email, in your DMs, in your PMs, in your Facebook group, underneath the post, on your Facebook page, underneath the post, the more open-ended calls to action, the more directives you give, the more opportunities there are for people to start conversing with you. And it's in these individual conversations that you will then have the opportunity to move them into a sales conversation. Is there anything that I'm forgetting about calls to action?
I don't think there's anything you're forgetting, but as you were saying that, I was thinking that I think a lot of people have a hard time with this because when you are behind a computer, sitting by yourself in your office, it can feel very one-sided. And so you forget that your content is actually always a two-way interaction. It's not one-sided. You're not just vomiting information at people, or you shouldn't be. You probably are, but you shouldn't be. The entire purpose is to create conversation. That's what engagement is. So if you think about it that way, when you're talking to your neighbor or your best friend or even a client in your office, are you just like spewing information at them? No, hopefully not. You're usually ending it with, what do you think? Or how do you feel about going and implementing that? Or are you feeling that way? Or a call to action to engage and respond.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so this is something, especially in your Facebook group and especially with your emails, right? You have to give a directive, whether that's an open ended question to ignite conversation or a direct, here's what you do now type phrase, right? And those two things, whether it's an open ended question or a directive to do this next thing, that is what creates engagement. And you can find a way to do that on every single post, email, conversation that you're having. Can I tell my community and social media about Instagram algorithms if they want me to thrive? I don't know what that means.
Oh, I think she means, can she say to her community, hey, if you engage with me, I will get more viewers and I will do better? Is that?
If that's what you mean, then no. That's not the way that you want to do it. You want to actually create helpful content that they will engage with, and therefore that will help you show up more in the feeds, because Facebook is, so Facebook is really saying like, oh, this person's getting engagement, this person has people coming to their lives, this person is really putting effort, we're going to reward that effort, and they're going to push your content into the news feed more. So the best way to do that is by asking open-ended questions. You could do a 30-minute Facebook Live and not have one comment. Why?
Yeah.
Because you're not asking for them, right? You're not asking for people to comment. You're basically talking at them for 30 minutes. You're writing an email that talks at your subscriber list. You're writing social media posts that talks at your subscriber list. And you're not thinking about, okay, well, I genuinely want to have a conversation here. So what could I ask that would elicit engagement, right? Versus just creating or just posting content that's speaking at your ideal client. So let's go through right. So holistic dietitian, exactly. So it takes practice. When I first started doing Facebook Lives, I would have post-it notes underneath the camera to say, ask questions, ask questions. And if you notice, we're constantly saying, Laura especially is like, does that make sense? Let me know, are you guys, understanding this? And asking for your feedback, right? There's certain times where, we'll say, let me know in the comments this, that, or the other thing, right? So we're asking for engagement, and then we can comment back to you based on your responses. And that feels like we're legitimately having a conversation, right? And it feels better for you, and it feels better for us, because we're not just talking at the computer the entire time. So first and foremost, we want you to include calls to action in every single piece of content that you create. So tell me in the comments now if you are struggling with engagement. Tell me if you're struggling. If this is something that you are struggling with, tell me, say, yes, I struggle with engagement. And we're going to give you some examples of calls to action that you can use on your posts and in your emails to increase engagement, right? Thanks, Mira. So let me know in the comments if engagement is something that you actually struggle with. And we're gonna, okay. So Mira says yes, Matt says yes, I want to do better. Yep. And I definitely don't ask questions, even in the story. I have to have calls for action. Yes, absolutely. You all listen. Okay, so we're online, right? And people want to feel like they're having a conversation with you. And so the best thing for you to do is to make it feel like you care about what they have to say. And in order for you to do that, you have to ask them questions. How are they doing? Are you struggling with this? How can I help you? Have you had a similar experience, right? This is all part of getting to know your audience and really understanding your ideal client and the struggles that they're having. You won't know anything about them if you don't ask questions, right? Yeah. And they're going to feel that, right? They're going to feel like, oh, like she doesn't know me. She just talks at me, or he just talks at me. So here are some examples of calls to action. So let's start off with email. Email is the most underutilized way to get engagement, right? Because first of all, you should be growing your email list daily, monthly. And if you're not, that's a whole other problem. But when you send emails 2 to 3 times a week, every single email should have calls to action. So remember that there's 2 types. There's the open-ended questions to get engagement, and then there's the directive. Click the link here to do something, right? So do you want to give some examples of the way that our clients are using calls to action to then lead to calls booked and engagement?
Totally. So it depends also on where the potential client is in your world. If they're brand new to your world, if they've been in your world longer, et cetera, et cetera. So our clients have different ways of engaging with people depending on what type of email they're writing. So in the beginning, we have what we would call a nurture sequence. So somebody comes into your world through a piece of content, a lead magnet, whatever, they get on your list, and they're going to get some dedicated emails right off the hop that are designed, to increase know, like, and trust, but also to start off the conversation. And so that engagement's really easy. It's like, reply back and let me know the number one thing you're struggling with right now. Hit reply and let me know if this applies to you as well. It's a very straightforward. It's not asking them to commit to anything. It's not asking them, to even really take a next step. It's just reply back. Talk to me. Is this something that is an issue with you? And these get really good engagement, right? Because people feel like you're asking them a direct question and they're like, yes, this does apply to me. So that's a really good example of kind of an early on piece of engagement in email.
Pause for 1 sec. I just want to say, sorry. I just want to say something and tag it back to what we were saying yesterday about where they are in the readiness to change. Right. And so what we find most practitioners and coaches do, a mistake that they make, is they jump right away to the offer in the emails, right? Right away to the offer. And somebody who's new to your world needs to be nurtured. And so the best way to do that is to start the conversation, which is why that particular call to action at the beginning of your relationship with them is really powerful, because you're asking them, you're gauging their level of readiness. You're assessing where they are based off of their response. So it's really critical that you think about, okay, this person's new to my world. How am I going to gauge their level of readiness in terms of how I can be of best service to them? Okay, sorry.
And no, that's really good. And you have to take it back to being a human being too, because a lot of times when you're new to this, it's really easy to get up inside your head and be like, okay, somebody subscribed to my list. Oh my gosh, potential client, let's go, phone call. And you forget that like societal norms are not that way. You wouldn't just approach somebody on the street who looks like a nice person.
Cute, yeah.
And be like, hey, do you want to go on a date tonight? I mean, maybe you do, but you likely don't. You likely have a little conversation first and, ask them their name and see if you have anything in common before you ask for a commitment, right? So you have to think about it a little bit in terms of common sense as well. Like societal norms don't go away just because you're now on the other side of a potential client relationship. So anyways, total side note, but I think it's important. So down funnel, let's call it. So when somebody has been in your world for a little while and they've likely gone through, a couple of stages of awareness and are a little bit further down that line, you're going to start sending them marketing emails. People are going to be getting just regular emails from you, hopefully, if you're using email marketing. If you're not, you should be sending them marketing emails at least once a week, hopefully more. And here you can have different call to action. So here you could have a call to action for somebody to register for your webinar. Maybe you're running a webinar that week, and that would be the call to action from the email. Maybe, you are accepting new clients into your program. And so you are putting out a call to action to schedule a call with you and see if you're a good fit and if you can, help solve the problem that they have. These are a little bit more commitment style calls to action, but they make sense in the context. I think at the end of the day, if you're writing an email, you should have a purpose. You're not just writing an email for no purpose. So think about it and be intentional. What's the purpose of this email? Is it to nurture somebody new? In that case, it's just engagement. Reply back. Let me know. Is this you? Can I help you? Are you writing the email because you want people to sign up for your webinar? In that case, you have to tell them that, right? Like they don't know. They're just getting this random email. So you have to say, hey, I'm so excited. I can help you. Click here and sign up for the free workshop, right? Are you sending an email because you want to enroll clients? Cool. Again, they don't know that. So here, click this link and book a call with me. Let's see if I can help you solve XYZW.
Yeah.
Does that make sense for you guys?
Yeah. And I think, I think that it's important to understand that your emails and your content all have intent behind them. And like I said, not every call to action is going to be directive to a sale, right? And whether you're posting in your Facebook group because you're doing a check-in, right? Like now is the time where you should be checking in with your audience, checking in with family and friends, checking in on your personal Facebook page. Again, show up as the leader. Go on your personal Facebook page and say, hey friends, checking in here. How are you? Here's how I'm doing. How are you? Engagement, right? Whether that turns into clients or not, a lot of people are like, well, if I ask this, how am I going to get clients from that? There's not one specific thing that's going to get you clients. It's creating engagement over time. And the truth is that people need to see your offer. They need to see, book a call. I have this program. I can help you. Here's how we work together. multiple times. Like the research is something like, I don't know, 9 to 12 times.
Yeah.
Right. They need to see it 9 to 12 times, most people, in order to actually do something. Yeah. So if you're only, because you feel bad, because you don't want to be salesy, if you're only like saying, oh, book a call once a week, it's going to be 9 weeks before somebody takes action.
And that's provided they open all those emails and read all those calls to action.
Right. Yes. So getting in the habit, and it is a habit and it is a practice of asking open-ended questions and sharing that you have a way to support them in every single piece of content. And again, I know I'm repeating myself. It doesn't need to be book a call, book a call, book a call. It could be, tell me the number one struggle that you're dealing with right now. I know we're in a crisis. What's the number one thing that you're dealing with right now? Engagement, right? On the positive, it could be, you know, like I shared a story. I knew that it was going to get engagement, and it did. I shared a story on my personal Facebook page about the things that my kids are doing right now. And I knew that my mom friends would chime in. Is that going to lead to clients? Maybe indirectly. What is that going to do? That's going to push my feed, my personal page, into the news feed more. People are going to see my face. They're going to see my name. From the time that I started doing that on a regular basis, I've had people in my friend group who are chiropractors, who are energy therapists. One of my previous energy therapists reached out to me. She's like, I didn't even know you did this, right? Because they're seeing my face in the news feed. So I'm getting so many phone calls today. It's I'm getting so many phone calls.
What's happening?
My phone never rings. Right? So I want you to think about, it doesn't always need to be book a call, work with me, book a call, work with me, but come up with, you know, if you were chatting with a friend, did you like that movie? What are you guys watching on Netflix? Is that going to directly lead to a client? That one post? No. What does that do? It humanizes you, right? It creates engagement. And the more engaged your group is, the more engaged your email list is, that does lead to clients. If you have silence, that's not beneficial, right? You've done all this work to build up an email list and all this work to build up a Facebook group. And if it's silent, then they're not paying attention to you. You're not top of mind. They don't feel like they can chit chat with you. You want a group that feels, you want an email list that feels like they can chit chat with you, right? I'm constantly saying, send me a DM, take a picture, show me this. I do respond. In my Facebook group, we're constantly asking open-ended questions, right? To create engagement. The more opportunities you're giving your people to converse with you, the more conversations you have, the more calls you will book, the more clients you will get. That's how this works, right? And so I want you to go and audit your content and go and read it from the perspective of your ideal client and ask yourself, did I give them an opportunity to engage with me? And the answer is probably no. Go look at your last 10 posts, right? Is there something there for them to actually engage with other than, like, thank you for the tips, right? Read your emails. Is there something for them to engage with you? Or is it straight up like, click the link to book a call, but there's no real context there, right? And that's why a lot of practitioners and coaches feel salesy, is because they're constantly promoting the thing that they're selling and they're not wrapping it in engagement because they're not having calls to action. Do you want to talk about open-ended questions, especially in your Facebook group?
I love to talk about open-ended questions. This is the one thing that it's so easy to do, and yet so many people are not doing it, right? An open-ended question is a question that's not ended with a yes, no, right? Mm-hmm. Straight up, if you can answer yes or no to a question, it's not really going to open up conversation, because yes or no ends a conversation, right? So open-ended questions are as simple as, what are you making for dinner tonight? That's an open-ended question. Nobody can say yes or no and go away. It's rude not to answer that. And then you can then actually have a conversation. You know, what are you struggling with most now? Not, are you struggling? What are you struggling with most now? You know, it's there's so many of them. It's almost hard to give you guys examples, because almost everything should be an open-ended question. And that, coincidentally, is the number one fix you can use in your sales conversations and sales processes too, is to switch from closed-ended questions, yes, no, to open-ended questions that generate conversation, right? Because conversations are what leads to conversions. So you start that here, you start conversations here, that is what's going to lead to new clients and to conversions down the road. Does that make sense?
I'm frozen. Can you hear me?
You're good now. Yep, you're good now.
Okay. And like, I saw it going. I was like, oh, that sucks. Yes. I want to give you one last example of a great way to ask questions. I want you to think about, before you ask the question, what would be the optimal response? Right? What would be the optimal response that would then open the door for you to then continue the conversation? So if it's more of a fluffy, like, what are you making for dinner tonight? That's just pure engagement to make sure that the algorithm is like seeing. And sometimes you need to do that to sort of jumpstart literally the algorithm, so that Facebook can see that you have engagement. But if we're talking about the specific calls to action that would then lead to conversations that would then lead to a new client, what's the response? So you want to know what their challenges are. You want to know what they're struggling with right now. You want to know what they've tried and why they don't think it's working. You want to know what they believe to be true about their current condition. You want to think about the response that you want to get from them, that would then give you something to say, absolutely, that must be really hard for you. I have some ideas. I'm going to send you a PM. Right? You need something to go off of. So I want you to sort of think backwards and say, okay, you know, what information do I need to then demonstrate that I have a solution? And we're doing attention second, because last week we went over the offer. Well, if you know that you have a solution to their problem, you need to get them talking about the problem. Right? And so you need to think about the kind of questions to ask that would get them complaining, that would get them to tell you their desired outcome, that would get them to tell you, you know, like I said, what they've tried in the past and how many attempts they've made and why they think they're not getting results now. And if you could wave a magic wand and, you know, give them results, what would that look like? How ready and willing are they to commit now? So you're not just creating content for the sake of creating content. You're creating content to get information, to start a conversation that would then allow you to demonstrate that you have a solution. And so the best way to think about it is backwards. What do you need them to tell you so that you can then take that and run with it? So I would love to know from you guys if you're going to use more calls to action in your content, and if you can see different ways to use calls to action. Actually, this is a really good one. So Erin is saying, having a hard time with calls to action on recipe posts. So what you can do for recipe posts is you can give a little story about why you chose this recipe and how you use it. And you can add calls to action at the end of the recipe to say, let me know if there's an ingredient here that you don't know what it is, or you're struggling to find, or let me know when you're going to make this recipe, or let me know your favorite recipe for cupcakes. Or you can ask open-ended questions for sure on recipes. It's just, again, getting a little bit creative and thinking about, if you were to give the recipe to your best friend, what's the conversation that you would have? They'd be like, oh, Erin, where do I get these chocolate chips? Or what type of bee pollen should I be using? Or, like, what type of collagen should I be using? Ask them to ask you questions. Tell them to ask you questions, right? Tell them to talk to you about when they're going to make the recipe, right? So we hope that this was helpful. We know that this is such a simple, easy thing to do that is so, so powerful, that gives you that return on investment in terms of your content really working for you, because it does take a considerable amount of time to create content, right? Writing emails and creating social media posts and putting together Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives takes time, right? It takes time, but we want you, especially right now, people want to have conversation. People want to talk about how they feel. People want to feel heard. And it might not translate into clients immediately right now, but it will down the road. It will. Mel saying, I do a lot of engagement and also open-ended questions and get crickets. My group gives likes, but no answers, not even in introducing themselves. So strange. You know what? Sometimes groups are like that. Keep trying. Ask them things that are completely unrelated to their health symptom. Ask them what they're watching on Netflix. Ask them the last book that they read, right? Sometimes people feel really, vulnerable and nervous about sharing anything personal, especially if they're women. They will chit chat though. They will chit chat. So try that. Try asking them something that is completely unrelated to the health situation. And also in terms of asking them to introduce themselves, maybe it's how you're framing it. Maybe ask them to share one, a hobby or the last thing that they watched on Netflix, or, one thing they're hoping to get out of the group versus introducing themselves. So if you're not getting engagement, just change the positioning of what you're asking, and just keep trying. That's all you can do. Just keep trying. So thanks for hanging out with us this morning, April 1st. And we will be back again tomorrow. Same time, same place, same bat channel.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.